Alrighty, guys, it is Monday. Happy Monday. It is book club day. So we are doing finally the review wrap-up video for Daisy Jones and the Six. I just finished it yesterday, so it is fresh in my mind. I really enjoyed the book. We are going to get right into the questions. Me and Charmaine do this together, book club, as you know. So Charmaine will be in the title or linked in the description box. Definitely go check her out and see how she answers these questions. Discuss with us down below. Also, if you guys want, we have a Facebook group I will link down below. And we also been using the app Fable. So, unfortunately, I did not read this book until very late in the game. I just read it. I started it 2 days ago and I finished it. Yeah, last minute Nancy as always. But I did leave some posts as I was reading. So I'm hoping with the next book, now that I'm almost done with school, well, with my job, because I'm a teacher, so I'm off very soon, I will get on Fable more regularly, and there can be a little more of a discussion on there. But if you guys want to hop on, see my post, comment back. I know some of you did leave a reflection. But yes, definitely leave stuff down below so we can discuss it. Let's get right into the questions. So number one, I will say it might take a little bit for me to read. Charmaine sent it and I'm like zooming a little bit. But number one, what do you think about the storytelling style of the interview format? Do you feel it worked for this story? Why or why not? I actually really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it. I've never read a book that is like full interview all the way through. And it truly is like the whole way through the book. But I think that's why I was able to finish it so quickly. So it worked out in my favor because I did start it late. Because it is an interview style. Let me like open a page to give you guys a good example. I find it is quicker to read because there's a lot of open space. So it's not just chunks of words and paragraphs because each person contributes. So look over here, it says Eddie. This is what Eddie said. Warren, this is what Warren said. Graham, this is what Graham said. Billy, this is what Billy said. Karen, this is what Karen said. So there's a lot of breaks in between, and it made for a very fast-paced read. So I started this like midweek, but I did not get very far. I only read like a few pages. The bulk of my reading was Friday. So on Friday, my plan was to read for a few hours until Joe got home, and then we were supposed to go out for Friday night, and then I was going to read it Saturday, today on Sunday. I'm filming this on Sunday, but I ended up falling asleep and taking a 5-hour nap. I fell asleep with the book right on the side of me. I woke up, it was 11:30, so needless to say, we did not have a Friday night. Joe went to bed around midnight, and I was wide awake at this point. I ended up reading from midnight to 6 a.m. I knocked out almost 200 pages. And then I woke up the next day, read a bunch until we left. Me and Joe did like a food festival. You guys want to check out my vlog? It'll be in the vlog Friday, I believe. My vlog's always on Friday, but I believe what I filmed last week, yeah, will be in this Friday's vlog. Because the filming's always 1 week behind. And then I got home from the festival, and I read the last like 50 pages and done. So technically, I read this book in majority of a 24-hour period. So yes, the interview style made it really quick and easy to read. It was super enjoyable. It was cool. You guys know I love dual points of views. If you've been on this channel before. So this one was like definitely multiple points of views. There's a lot of characters. It's Daisy Jones and the Six. So it's literally Daisy Jones and 6 other bandmates. I will say one of the bandmates does not have a voice throughout the whole book. I kept wondering, I'm like, oh, is it going to end with you finding out he died? Which is Peter, if you guys remember. You never hear Peter's side of the story here. They talk about Peter because he's involved, obviously. And then there's literally one line at the very end, and he basically is saying where he is now. I think he owns, I don't know if it was a construction company or a landscaping company, and he said that he enjoyed that time in his life, but that's all he has to say. So basically, he was invited for the interview, but he decided not to do it. So you hear Daisy Jones, you hear 5 of the band members, so that's 6 people, and then you hear Camilla, Billy's wife, so that's 7, and then you hear Simone, which is Daisy's best friend. So there is 8 different voices in this book, but I absolutely loved it. I honestly really liked the way it was written. I'm definitely curious to see what you guys thought about it. Please let me know. And I think it definitely worked for the story because I don't know. This is so different, and I loved it because I'm not usually someone that likes things that are based on the past. I'm very much a present or future person. I like futuristic things. So I wasn't sure 100%. I do love Taylor Jenkins Reid's. But I was like, oh, am I really gonna enjoy this book about the 70s? And I loved it. It really just like I love she does, I guess, that really well, because I love The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, also written by her, and it definitely goes into the past. I like that it ties the past and the present, and you just get a really cool picture of the 70s and what it was like. And I think doing it through this interview style made it more of that, like, she's interviewing a band, and it was like, you really felt like this was real. And I talked about that on the Fable app. The scene where they are performing SNL and Daisy Jones and Billy Doon sing to each other. I was literally about to put down the book and Google like Daisy Jones and the Six SNL on YouTube, hoping I would find a video clip. And then I went, wait, this isn't real. That's not a real band. But it truly, I think it was the way it was written, makes you feel like it was a real band. It was like, you know, the 8 different personalities, the 8 different stories. It was so well written, in my opinion. And I do love her as an author. Let me know what you guys thought. Number 2, Daisy seemed constantly lost and using drugs and alcohol to fill a void. What do you think she truly desired and or felt she was missing? So right at the beginning of the book, and I actually listened to an audio sample because everyone said this book is incredible as an audiobook because they actually do use different voices for all the bandmates. Unfortunately, the app that me and Charmaine use, it was not available. It was only available through Audible. I thought about doing it, and if I hadn't had the physical book, I would have. But because I had the physical book, I said, Tay, you have the physical book, you might as well read it. But the 5-minute sample is literally right. It talks about Daisy and why she does, it's basically not why she does drugs and alcohol. It doesn't say that specifically, but it talks about her as a person and how she grew up and like why she is the person she is. And basically it says right here, like, she had no one. She had no siblings, no extended family in Los Angeles, and 2 parents who are into their own world that they are all but indifferent for her existence. She literally like is gone for like weeks at a time. She's even living with our friend Simone at one point, and her parents have no clue. That is like crazy to me. So I think that's what it is. It's she wants someone to want her. She wants someone to care about her, to love her. So I think she uses the drugs to fill that void. So it's almost, it makes her unaware, and like she even like has all these house parties, and it's like all these models and actresses and people that don't even really know her, and it's basically just so she's not alone. And I think when she's high, she feels less lonely. She's not as aware of her life and her feelings. It makes her more numb, and I think that's exactly why she does the drugs and alcohol. It's to fill that void of being alone, of not feeling cared for and loved. What do you guys think? I think that's definitely like the hit on the nail on the head for that. And it is also the 70s. I mean, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. She's in that scene, you know what I mean? She's hangs out with these types of people, and she's in the clubs all the time where it's widely available to her. It was literally so easy for her to score these drugs. It was insane. So it makes it almost impossible not to do them. Not necessarily, because Billy Doon is sober, but you know what I mean? It's like when it's readily available like that, most people are going to experiment. Most people are going to try. Not necessarily me, but most people. I would be scared shitless. I am someone who very much likes to be in control of their own body. I have a drink. As soon as I feel buzzed, I stop, because it's my anxious mind. I always think of the worst case scenario, but I feel like most people want to experiment. So, but I think at the end of the day, it's mostly to fill the void of being unloved and uncared for. Number 3, we get to know the Six and how they got their start. We also learned that Billy and Graham's father walked out on them as kids. How did that impact both brothers as adults? And that's kind of what because her name is Taylor Jenkins Reid. That's what Daisy and Billy kind of have in common. Of course, Billy's a little bit different because he has his mom, and they have each other. He has his brother. But he does have that void. He has a father who didn't love him, a father who didn't care for him. You know, it's almost like you assume parents love you. Like, biologically, they're supposed to love you. They had you, they brought you into this world. So it's almost like if the people that are supposed to love you doesn't love you, then who's gonna love you? And you feel unlovable because the two people in this world, or one person in this world who's supposed to love you doesn't love you. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I just want to like get that across, because I can totally get why, you know, kids of like either adoption, foster care system, single parents, or no parents can feel that way, because it is sad. Your parents are like, especially today being Mother's Day, I just did a beautiful post by my mom. She's my biggest supporter, my biggest cheerleader. She's incredible. I can't imagine not having her. Like, life would be so much harder. And it's like, I know no matter what happens in this world, no matter what I do, I mean, granted, if I did something awful like KILL people, I gotta be careful with words on YouTube. My mom would support me doing that. But obviously, I could literally, as long as I'm not an evil person, I could do anything my mom would support. The other day I was even like, how would you feel if I quit teaching and like open my own business? And I really thought my mom was going to be like, girl, you crazy? You have this good stable job. And she was like, if it's what's going to make you happy. So it's like, when you don't have that safety net, like those parents that care and love for you, it is harder to go through life. So, and then and then they see their father at the wedding when they're like a wedding band before they get started, and the father doesn't even recognize them. Like, he's literally half of them, and he does not recognize them. I can't imagine the pain that caused. I think back to when my grandmother was alive this time last year. She actually, her anniversary of her death is coming up, but she had dementia. And I always told my mom that when it got to the point where she wasn't going to remember my name, it was going to be really hard. Honestly, it never got to that point. Her heart gave out, so she passed away before her dementia got really bad. She would just forget to take her medications, and she would forget what she ate for breakfast and things like that. But at the end of the day, she knew who she was. She knew who I was, who my mom was, and I'm very grateful for that. There was one time she called me Maria, which is my mom's name, but I look a lot like my mom. Like, that didn't hurt me. But if she didn't know who I was at all, that would like hurt. So, and you know, that's a medical diagnosis. She can't help that. So I can't imagine like your dad is like a stranger to you in this world. So it's almost, and then, so that's why I think it had such an impact on them, especially when Billy finds out he's going to be a father. He's like, how can I be a dad if I don't even have the example of being a dad? Like, and I'm getting into a tangent, but it reminds me, I feel like most people have seen this scene. If you have not seen this scene, look it up on YouTube. But it's a scene of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when Will Smith's father leaves, and he had just bought him this statue, and it was beautiful. It's like a father hugging his child, and he was crying to his Uncle Phil. And he was saying, like, why doesn't my father, like, love me, you know? And he keeps saying, I took care of myself. I don't need him. That's actually what he's saying. He's not doing, like, a pity me, my father doesn't love me. He's like, I taught myself how to ride my bike. I taught myself how to shave. I taught myself how to get the women, how to shoot a basketball. I don't need him. But then right at the end, he's like, why doesn't he love me? And he starts crying. That scene is so, like, ugh. And he hugs Uncle Phil. And then he's, you know, and then I think in a different episode, he says how he's never going to do to his kids what his dad did to him. And I think that's what it is. You either end up following your father's footsteps and you end up being a deadbeat just like him, or you do the exact opposite to prove the point that you're not him. So I think Billy really struggled when he found out he was having a baby, because he was like, do I know how to be a dad? Like, I've never had a dad in my life. And then, of course, he wasn't being a good guy in the moment. You know, he was on drugs. He was cheating on his wife. It was a hard time for him. Never mind Camilla. I can't imagine. Camilla. I was called her Camilla the whole time I was reading. I can't imagine being pregnant, having your husband on the road, finding out he's cheating on you, going to rehab, never meeting your daughter until she's 2 months old. Like, it was kind of crazy. I wrote it in the Fable app too. I said, wow, I'm like over 100 pages in, and I feel like I know more about Billy than Daisy. I was like, I thought this was going to be more based on Daisy, and I actually found that this was a lot more about Billy Doon than it was about Daisy Jones, especially in the first half of the book. But I really enjoyed it either way. But it definitely has that impact on them. And that specific scene too, like at the wedding, I think like hits the nail on the head for them. Tell me what you guys think. Number 4, what did you think about Billy and Camilla's relationship. Were you surprised they stayed together after she found out he cheated on her? How does their relationship differ from Daisy and Billy? I was surprised she stayed with him, to be honest with you. Part of me is like, oh, is it because she knows he's going to be rich and famous? She knows he's going to have money. But no, you do quickly realize that's not it. She loves him, and that's exactly why. And sometimes you can forgive and you can move on. And, I won't go into detail, but I know people specifically where the husband cheated and the wife forgave and they still had an amazing life and they're still together many, many years later. And sometimes the trust, you can't rebuild that trust, and that trust is gone, and you have to end things. So I think it varies relationship to relationship. And if you can stay in that relationship, I think you're a really strong person, because you literally have to completely to relearn how to communicate and trust that person again. But I never blame someone for ending it either, because I don't know if it's something I could do. I don't think I would be that strong. Some people, it is kind of like an easy way out. They almost like pretend they don't know so that they can just like live their normal life. But that's not what Camilla was doing. She told him, she said, you have to get sober. You have to be a father. She wasn't taking the easy way out. In my opinion, she took almost like the harder way out, because she literally had to put all her faith in him. Let me see. How does the relationship differ from Daisy and Billy? Very different. I feel like Camilla and his relationship is who he wants to be. He wants to be in that stable, loving relationship with the 3 kids, with the white picket fence, the American dream. Daisy's the other half of him, the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. He wants both. He obviously can't have both. He ultimately has to make a choice. I think Daisy brings out the worst in him when it comes to like, obviously, like being sober and the drugs, but artistically he brings out the best in him. She brings out the best. She brings out his creativity, and they have the whole like music thing in common. So he had to basically choose, like, does he pick the stable American dream, or does he go with the woman who kind of excites him a little bit more? He loves Camilla. He does. He truly loves her. But Daisy's kind of like this fun, exciting, you never know what tomorrow's gonna bring kind of girl. With Camilla, okay, we're gonna be on our rocking horses on our porch, rocking chairs on our porch, watching the sunset. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, one was a very clear vision of what his future was gonna be, and one was like the fun, exciting, there's definitely love there too, though. I think he really did love Daisy. I think, they wouldn't have been I don't think they would have been able to make such incredible music unless they had like those true feelings for each other. And I do think it was genuine. He truly cared for her. He wanted her to get sober. I think she genuinely cared for him too. But yeah, it was basically like a rock and a hard place. Like, what is going to be his final decision? And there are people, like, some people would consider that like, oh, stable life boring. And there are people that need that exciting fire. I'll take boring any day. Let me know what you guys think. But I know that is like, for some people, they need that excitement. So people like that would choose like a Daisy Jones. And he ultimately chose Camilla. Although at the end, I wish there had been more to the story. I'm going to be honest with you, which I think I'll go into that in another question. How about that? Number 5. Why do you think Billy and Daisy clash so strongly? What misunderstanding between them are revealed through the author's investigation? They clash because basically he's trying to not be pulled into that life. He's trying not to be the partier, the one who goes to the clubs, the one who, I don't know why I'm doing this with my hands, the one that does the drugs, the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. He wants to be the stable husband, father, take care of you kind of person. And Daisy showing him the opposite of that. She's showing him a different life he could have. So that's why they clash, because he does want to lean towards this way, but she's like making him think about the other possibility. I honestly didn't understand the second part of the question that much. Maybe I missed something. You guys let me know. But the whole misunderstanding between them. Oh, was it about... No, that was more with Camilla. She was saying how you guys always felt lost and you didn't know where you belonged. but everyone loved, like, they didn't, but like, not that they didn't belong, but they like didn't feel love when everyone loved them. Literally, like, millions of people. They sold out albums. They sold out stadiums. Like, there was so much love for them that they didn't even see. But I don't know if that's the misunderstanding with the author's investigation. You know, obviously you find out the author is his daughter. I didn't think that was like this big twist. I don't know. Like, the twist in, which I won't get into, I don't want to ruin it for you guys if you haven't watched it, but the twist in Evelyn Hugo on why Monique was picked to choose this, to write the story, I was like, what? But this one, I didn't even think about who the author was. I was just like, so then I was like, oh, okay, it's the daughter. So, I don't really know. If you guys have more thought into that question, let me know. I can't think of what the misunderstanding that was revealed is, to be honest with you guys. Number 6, as we read the interviews, we can tell both of them, especially Billy, seem to hold back on the complete truth at times. In what ways did the songwriting or actions on stage tell the truth when maybe they weren't being honest to each other and to themselves? When they were on stage, they were definitely, it's almost like they let down their walls. Where when they were like writing, and even when they were writing the songs together, they kind of let down their walls maybe like halfway. The rest of the time they ignored each other. But when they were writing that music together, they were lighting each other's fires, if that makes sense. Same thing when they were on stage. Like, they're staring into each other's eyes. They're having intimate moments. They may not be like physically touching one another or kissing or doing things of that nature, but sometimes intimacy is not always physical. And the way it's explained, again, incredible author, the way it's explained when they're on stage, it sounds like they could have literally like lit fires the way they were looking at each other. Like, it seemed so intense, so intimate, even though there's millions of people watching them. That's why, especially that SNL one, where he's just playing the keyboard and they're singing to each other. I'm like, I wish I could look that up. Like, I wanted this to be real. Now I cannot wait to watch the Amazon Prime show because I'm dying to see that scene in particular. Because I was imagining in my head, I can't even imagine seeing it like live in person. So it's like when they were singing to each other, it was like that's when they could be honest with themselves and with each other. Every other time, they basically ignored each other because they didn't want that part of themselves to be real. Let me see. But during the interviews, they definitely hold back things. They don't really talk about really, like, loving each other, but you definitely pick up on that when they're on stage together. Number 7, Daisy admits in the interview how she fell for Billy. But even all these years later, Billy can't quite get there. He hints at it, but he always goes back to his love for Camilla. Why do you think he can't admit how he feels and possibly still feels about Billy? And again, I think it's because he already cheated on Camilla once, more than once, but like in one time period. He already like feels so much guilt and shame over that. I think for him to like do it all over again by admitting that he loved Daisy, he would just like not be able to live with himself. He, like I said, because there is a lot of love for Camilla. You can definitely see that. And he wants to be, like I said, that husband, that wife, that stable man for her. So he might feel it, but he knows once he says it, he can't take it back. And even though it's still wrong either way on one level, whether he says it or not, he still feels it. So he's still like emotionally cheating on her in a way. But it's like, as long as he doesn't say it, it's not real. And once you say it, it's real. So that's why I think he's never able to say. He's able to hint at it. You definitely pick up on it. Especially the moments when they're on stage and they're writing the songs together. But he never actually says it. Because like I said, once you say it, it's real. Number 8. Let's talk about Karen and Graham's relationship. So we can tell he's crazy about her. And she eventually warms up to him too. But when it comes to the idea of having a family together, she can't see herself there. What do you think of Karen's decision about her pregnancy and Graham's reaction to the news? So, you guys know I am pro-choice over here. Your body, your choice. I would never tell someone else what to do with their body. I think Karen did what she had to do for herself and the future she wanted. I do think Graham has a reason to be upset. I know it's hard because, you know, it is a woman's body at the end of the day, but it's also Graham has that connection. I do think they should have had more conversation about it, but I do think at the end of the day, it is Karen's choice. I do feel like he might have been blindsided a little bit, even though she says she did tell him. But I know, like, at one point, Graham's like, we'll talk about it later. And that later never happened. So to him, it wasn't obvious, but to her, it was obvious. I do feel like she should have been like, hey, I'm scheduling this at this day, this time. If you want to be there and support me, be there. If you don't want to be there and support me, you don't need to be there. We know Karen's a very independent woman. But I do feel like she should have given him, like I said, at the end of the day, it's her choice. Now, I'm not saying giving him a choice, but at least giving him the chance to at least, I don't know, be there for her. I don't know if that's something he would have wanted to do, but maybe he would have felt a little more in control. Not that he should feel in control, because again, it's her body, but there definitely could have been more conversation about it. Because like, if the shoe's on the other foot, I try to play devil's advocate and think about how the other person feels, and I would want that person to at least, like, talk to me a little bit more about it, at least know when it's happening, I guess. And I would have, personally, I would have wanted to have been there for that person and hold their hand and make sure they're okay and all those things. I get why she didn't tell him, probably because she was scared he would change her mind. She didn't even have to invite him. She could have at least been like, hey, I'm just letting you know this is 100% happening. She didn't have to say what clinic. She could have said, or even like the time of the appointment for her safety, but she could have said, hey, I'm doing it today, or hey, it's happening this week, or something like that. I totally understand why she did what she did. I understand why Graham was upset too, obviously. It's a tough situation, and he loved her so, so much. It wasn't so much just about the baby. It was him knowing that he wasn't going to have the future he wanted to have with Karen. He wasn't going to get the white picket fence, marriage, baby thing that Billy had. Because that's just not how Karen wanted to live her life. I do believe she did really love Graham, because I know at one point Graham says, you never loved me the way I loved you. I don't think that's true. I do think Karen really, really loved Graham. I think she just, at the end of the day, wanted to live a different life, and they didn't agree on that life. I think that's a very important conversation to have when you're with someone for a certain length of time. Like, do you want to have kids? Is that a deal breaker for you? You know what I mean? Things like that. Because if not, then you have to think about that. You either have to be like, okay, I'm okay with this different future that I hadn't pictured for myself, or hey, I'm not okay with this future. Maybe you're not the person for me. But, their relationship was very hush-hush, and it wasn't out in the public. It wasn't even like a normal relationship. I feel bad for Graham because he really, really loved her. And I feel bad for Karen. It was a tough decision. It wasn't easy for either one. That's basically how I feel about that. Let me know how you guys felt about it. But I was happy when they finally got together. I did really like them together. It's unfortunate it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Number 9. What role does the reliability of memory play in the novel? Were there instances in which you believed one person's account of an event more than another? What does the author mean when at the beginning she said the truth often lies unclaimed in the middle? Yeah, there was definitely instances. I'm trying to think of one in particular. I know they made a bet. I think it was the day of the cover shoot. They were shooting for the album, and they were going to make a bet that Billy wore a denim shirt. And I think it was Karen was like, oh, I won the bet. I won $50. But then another band member said, oh, I won the bet. I won $200. There's no way they both won the bet. One person lost. And it was two very different money amounts. And it's true. I think that was actually a very smart idea on her, because they're being interviewed many, many, many years later. You're never going to remember things exactly. Even I can't even tell you exactly what I did yesterday, at what time, what place. You know what I mean? That's just not how our brains work. So I think it was very smart of her to do that. It made the book more real. And that whole quote, like, the truth often lies unclaimed in the middle, that reminds me of another one. I forgot exactly how it goes, but it's like, there's always 3 sides to the story: his, hers, and the truth. Because, like I said, one person can't, unless they have like crazy good memory. I always think of like Monk, because me and Joe are watching Monk right now, where he has like, I don't know what the word is, it phonetic memory? I can't remember the word for it, but he can literally tell you like everything because he remembers everything perfectly. But even that, there's always like one thing that's going to slip through the cracks. You know what I mean? So that quote is very, very accurate. because you can think you're being as honest as possible and truthful, and you're not like, you're not, what's the word, not willingly lying, you're not like maliciously lying, but there is always going to be some little details that are left out, or twist a turn of something that's different, you know what I mean? Number 10, were you surprised to discover who the author was? I talked about that. No, to be honest with you, I didn't even think about the author. I'm curious, was there like, I don't know, I feel like maybe she could have started, and I love Taylor Jenkins Reid, so it's not me complaining, but maybe she could have started the book a little bit differently, because I didn't even realize, like, I don't know, I knew they were being interviewed, but I don't know, I just did not think about who was interviewing them at whatsoever. So when I said it was the daughter, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know, let me guys know if that was like a huge twist for you. We were like, oh my god, it's Julia, but I really honestly didn't even... I was like, okay, it's Julia. Like, that didn't like, oh my god, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That's when I was like, oh my god. If you guys have read that book, highly recommend. Number 11, in speculation, do you think Billy and Daisy will reconnect to be together? So this was the question I was hinting at before, where I said, now that Camilla is gone, she specifically told her daughters, like, hey, Daisy's number's in my nightstand, I think she said, in the second drawer. Tell your dad to call Billy. At the very least, they owe me a song. Something like that. I wish, when I said I wish it went more into the story, I liked it. That's my only complaint, is I kind of wish we saw a little bit more of after the band broke up. The band broke up right at the very end. And I kept, like, waiting for, I thought it was going to be more, like, I don't know, maybe, like, the last 50, 60 pages. I would have liked to seen, like, Daisy get clean and how her life turned out. Or at the very least, at least, like, once Camilla said that or left that in a note or whatever for the for her daughters, I would have loved to see Billy make that phone call. Even if it didn't go into too much, you know, I would have loved to at least seen the phone call and just kind of hint at what the future was going to be for them. Especially now that she is clean, I definitely could see them being together for sure. So I do think, even whether they reconnect romantically or just reconnect in general, I can definitely see it happening. And then the last one, number 12, is casting the characters. So, for Daisy Jones, now this is a series. I believe it's on Amazon Prime. I'm going to start watching it soon with Joe. I recommend it to my mom, too, because my mom loves, like, 70s rock band. She loved, like, Kiss and The Police and, I don't know, Meatloaf and all those people. So I could definitely see my mom loving the show. But anyway, I thought of one specific person the whole time I read this book for Daisy Jones. I know the actress they picked was Riley Keough, and I didn't even know. Charmaine actually told me that that's actually Elvis's granddaughter. That is so cool. Now I can see why they picked her, because, like, you know, Elvis is kind of like what started rock and roll, so it's kind of cool that they picked a relative of his to play Daisy Jones. But the whole time, the entire time I read this novel, she was the first person to pop in my head. It was clear as day. The rest, kind of as I read, they popped in my head, but this one, literally right from the very beginning, was Natasha Lyonne, and it is the girl from Orange is the New Black. Don't you guys think she would play this character incredibly well? At least in my opinion, I think she would. I don't know. She has that, like, I don't know, 70s rocker style. The hair. Like, even at one point it talks about how she cut her bangs and she had, like, wispy bangs. Her, like, no care attitude. Her, I don't know. I think she would play this character amazingly well. Then the next one is Billy Doon, who's played by Sam Claflin. I think it's a British actor. I kept imagining a Jamie Dornan, I think is how you say his name, which is the guy from 50 Shades. I will say in 50 Shades, he's more of a clean-cut guy, which, like, this is a good example of him in 50 Shades. He's like that businessman in the suit. That's definitely obviously not the Billy I imagine. But if you look at pictures of the actor, not of the character, he does have more of like a scruffy rocker style to him. And he actually is a musician. I didn't even know that. Because it says right here, is an actor, model, and musician from Northern Ireland. But if you look at his more like scruffy look, let me get some images for you guys. Perfect. Okay. Again, look at his more, and this one has random pictures of other guys. Matt Boomer is in there. But if you look at like this one right here with the beard, like, I definitely think he could have played Billy Dune for sure. Now, the next one is, let me see, Camilla. And Camilla was played by another Camilla, which is funny. Camilla Morano. I kept thinking, and this wasn't till more towards the end of the book, and I think she's on my mind because Hailey Bieber just announced her pregnancy, and you know, Camilla was pregnant. She had his babies. Hailey Bieber, not blonde. I kept imagining her brunette because he specifically talks about her long brown hair in one part about how it hit her waist. And I definitely thought about like a brunette Hailey Bieber for Camilla. And this is like more images of her as a brunette. She's kind of living that mom life now. I'm happy for her and Justin Bieber. I know a lot of people were like, I can't believe my man's having a baby with another woman. I was cracking up laughing. The next person, Karen, is played by Suki Waterhouse. And I thought of the girl that played Sabrina in the Netflix like remake, which is her right here. And I think I thought of her because Karen, because like the whole time, especially like when she compares herself to Daisy, she talks about how like Daisy like shows her tits all the time and wears all these short things, and Karen doesn't dress for men and she wears these turtlenecks. I think they both represent very different feminist values, because Daisy doesn't do it for men, she does it for herself. She's like, just don't look at me. Where Karen like wants to be respected as a woman, she covers herself up. I'm not saying either's right or wrong. And she kind of gives me those vibes. Obviously over here, she does have a dress on. She has some open skin. But you see, she has a lot of like high neck, button down, more kind of like masculine vibes to her. Especially like this one right here is a good example. So I could definitely see her playing a good Karen. Then the next one, I wish my phone would cooperate with me, is Graham Dunn, whatever. The brother of Billy Dune. And a lot, he says in one part, I remember him specifically saying, like, I was always Billy's little brother. He was never Graham's big brother. So I automatically think, in my opinion, the most famous brother in television, and that is Eric Matthews, because he's Corey's brother. You always think of him as the big brother, even though I do think Billy's the older brother, but and of course now he'd be like way too old to play him, but well, depending, when they're doing the interview part, he'd actually be kind of perfect. But his name is Will Friedle, I believe. Then for Eddie, it's played by a Will. That's funny. Graham Dunn is played by Will Harrison. And then Eddie Roundtree is played by Josh Whitehouse. I kept thinking, and I don't know why, but he did pop in my head several times, and it is Elijah Wood, the guy who played in The Lord of the Rings. Obviously, it wouldn't be him and as this character, it'd be him as, like, this character. He looks like he could rock out with a good guitar. Like, especially the one with him in, like, the hat. Like, very rocker style there. Then the next one, he's no longer living, but Warren, if I'm thinking correctly, Warren is the drummer, right? If I'm wrong, let me know. But in my head, I believe Warren is the drummer. And this guy gives me such drummer vibes, and he has since Glee. And that is Mark Sailing. He always gave me like a rocker drummer vibe. So I feel like he would fit Warren very, very well. Then for Simone Jackson, I kept thinking about Raven Simone. And so it could be because like Simone's in there. If you guys don't know who that is, she played That's So Raven, which I was obsessed with growing up. I think she would play an amazing Simone. I could see her like growing a fro or even like rocking like this short hairdo. Like, I think she would do an incredible Simone. I love Raven. It's just nostalgic for me. And then we have Teddy Price, which was played by Tom Wright. And I kept thinking about the father from that plays he's Randall's dad, I should say, because there's multiple characters in This Is Us, and he actually was a musician in This Is Us. He's not a musician, he's just like the producer. But obviously, even to be a producer, you have to know good sound, you have to understand like instruments and vocals and things like that. And then he plays like a young version of himself and then an old version of himself. Like that's the young version of himself when like Randall was born, and then these are like the older versions of himself. If I remember correctly, I think he did die recently. I feel like I got a notification about that on my phone. But anyway, I thought he would play a really good Teddy Price. Now I want to look him up. Oh yeah, right here. Dies at 66. So I picked 2 cast members that are no longer living. This was August 21st that this article came out. So, oh, it says This Is Us and Law and Order. I didn't know he was in Law and Order. Died August 19th, 22. Wow, the day before my birthday. Anyway, so that is who I thought for casting the characters. That's always a really, really cool question. Charmaine's the one. We've been doing it almost over a year now. We are about to hit 2 years. June is our anniversary for book club, and I believe we started doing casting of the characters last Christmas, if I remember. I think it was I could be wrong, but I think it was a Christmas book that we did it for. So we've been casting characters for over a year. It's always really interesting to see who we imagine in our minds. So let me know who you guys imagined, who you thought would play good at these characters. Do you think they casted it well for the characters they chose? Have you guys watched the show? Did you like the show? Did you read the book? Did you like the book? Let me know everything down below if you want to answer any of these questions. Don't forget to go check out my friend Charmaine. If you like the video, you like me, give the video a thumbs up. It really helps the YouTube algorithm get it out there in the YouTube universe, so book club can grow. If you guys want to check out Fable, I'll have it linked down below. If you want to check out the Facebook group, it'll be linked down below. I know this video was really long. If you're still here, leave a cute little flower to go with my cute little Mother's Day dress, and be safe, guys.